Have you ever looked at a couple and wondered, why her? She's not necessarily the most beautiful woman in the room. She's not loud, she's not chasing, she's not trying to prove anything. But he's locked in, fully focused, fully chosen, and every other woman invisible to him. This isn't luck. This isn't about looks. This is deliberate. Men may entertain many, flirt with some, date a few, but when it comes to choosing one, the woman he invests in emotionally, mentally, and physically, the reasons go far deeper than most women realize. Because here's the truth, most won't say out loud. Men don't fall in love with a checklist. They fall for a feeling, a space, a sense of home. And if you're not triggering that, he'll enjoy your company, but never claim you. So if you've ever been the one he talks to but doesn't commit to, if you felt passed over, replaced, or just unseen, you're not broken, but you are missing something crucial. In this video, I'm going to break down the exact inner mechanics of why a man will choose one woman and ignore the rest, what makes her unforgettable, and what silently disqualifies others, even if they're amazing on paper. So don't just watch this to learn, watch it to transform the way you see yourself and how men see you. Let's begin. Here's where it gets confusing for a lot of women. You attract him. He's texting, he's calling, he seems genuinely into you at first. There's chemistry, compliments, maybe even intimacy. But then he pulls back. He becomes distant. Or worse, he disappears altogether. And you're left thinking, what did I do wrong? This is what I call the attraction trap. It's when a woman believes that because she's caught a man's attention, she's automatically secured his desire for something meaningful. But attention is cheap. It's everywhere. Commitment, on the other hand, that's expensive. That costs energy, emotion, vulnerability, and choice. See, most women are taught how to be attractive, but not how to be chosen. And there's a huge difference. You can be stunning, you can dress perfectly, have a great conversation, even make him feel good in the moment. But if you're not activating the deeper part of a man that says, I feel safe here, I feel seen here, I can be me here, then he'll enjoy the ride, but he won't stay. The trap is believing that attraction is enough. But men don't stay for excitement, they stay for peace, for connection, for identity alignment. This is why so many women get stuck in situationships, or find themselves being almost girlfriends for months, even years. They're doing all the right surface level things, being supportive, fun, flirty, but the man doesn't feel that internal shift that makes him say, she's the one. So how do you avoid the trap? You shift your focus from impressing him to expressing you. The real you, the version that isn't performing, the version that owns her standards, speaks her boundaries with grace, and doesn't need to convince a man of her worth because she already knows it. When a man meets a woman who's emotionally grounded, who doesn't rush intimacy to earn affection, who values her energy and time, he pauses. That's rare, that's memorable, that gets inside his head. And here's the irony. When you stop trying to be what you think men want, you become what they didn't know they needed. Because what truly pulls a man out of the noise of modern dating is not intensity, it's authenticity. A woman who isn't just attractive, but aligned, who brings not just beauty, but clarity, who doesn't just spark interest, but ignites intention. So don't fall for the trap of attraction. It's the bait, not the bond. Focus on building emotional depth, self-respect, and values alignment. When you lead with that, you stop being a temporary thrill and start becoming the kind of woman a man doesn't just want, he chooses. And when that shift happens, everything changes. One of the biggest misunderstandings between men and women comes down to this. Men often say one thing but feel something entirely different. And it's not because they're trying to lie or manipulate. It's because many men were never taught how to connect with their emotions, let alone express them clearly. From a young age, most boys are taught to suppress, don't cry, don't feel too much, don't be soft. So as they grow, they learn how to communicate in a way that's logical, surface level, and emotionally guarded. But just because a man isn't saying something, doesn't mean he's not feeling it. The real information is often between the lines, in what he does, in what he avoids, in how he behaves when he's comfortable and when he's not. So when a man says, I'm just not ready for a relationship, what he might really mean is, I don't feel emotionally safe with you. Or, I don't trust that I can be fully seen without being judged. When he says, you're amazing but something's missing, What he could be feeling is a lack of emotional resonance, a misalignment of values, or the absence of that grounding piece that makes him want to stay. And here's the key. Most women take a man's words at face value and then try to convince him otherwise. They explain. They try harder. They ask, "What do you need from me?" Thinking if they adjust, maybe he'll stay. But the truth is, when a man feels a deep, unspoken connection, he doesn't have to be convinced. He just knows. It's in how his nervous system reacts around you. It's in how relaxed he becomes in your presence. It's in whether he wants to escape or expand. So many women get stuck chasing words when they should be paying attention to behavior. Because behavior is the truth. How he invests his time, how he shows up emotionally, whether he leans in when life gets hard or pulls away. These are the signals that reveal what he's truly feeling. Here's what's even more important. You don't need to decode him. You need to observe him. And more than that, you need to stay anchored in your own emotional truth. Because the moment you begin shape-shifting to fit a man's emotional unavailability, you abandon your own. When a man meets a woman who can feel deeply without making him responsible for those feelings, who sees through the mask, but doesn't push or pressure, he feels something rare. He feels understood, often for the first time. And when a man feels safe to feel, he also becomes free to choose. Because emotional safety isn't just about avoiding drama, it's about giving him space to bring forward the parts of himself he doesn't show the world. And that is where real connection begins. So what actually makes a man say, "She's the one"? It's not just love. It's not just chemistry. And it's definitely not perfection. What makes a woman stand out, what makes her unforgettable, is a very specific energy. And it's not always visible to the outside world. These are hidden qualities, subtle but powerful. The kind of things most people overlook, but men feel on a deep, almost primal level. The first quality? Emotional presence. She's not distracted. She's not performing. She's not stuck in her head overanalyzing every move she makes. She's with him. Present. Grounded. That doesn't mean she talks the most or dominates the space. It means she listens with her whole being. A man feels this immediately, even if he can't describe it. It's like an exhale, a space where he can be without needing to impress or protect himself. Another hidden quality, discernment. A high-value woman doesn't just want love, she wants the right kind of love. She's not desperate for attention, and she doesn't cling to potential. She chooses carefully, and men can feel when they're being chosen from a place of self-worth, not loneliness. This changes everything. It makes the dynamic intentional, not performative. She also holds soft boundaries, not rigid, not defensive, but calm, clear, and loving. She doesn't beg for clarity. She embodies it. She can express what she needs without guilt. She can walk away without making it a war. And that creates respect. Not fear-based control, but real, lasting respect. The kind that leads to long-term commitment. Another quality, emotional responsibility. She doesn't make him responsible for her happiness. She lets herself feel fully, but she doesn't dump her feelings onto him. She's emotionally sovereign. She can self-regulate. This gives a man the space to open up without feeling overwhelmed, manipulated, or trapped. Here's something most women overlook. The woman who becomes the one isn't always the loudest, the most outgoing, or the most conventionally beautiful. She's the one who makes him feel the most seen, the most safe, and the most alive. She evokes a version of himself he likes better, not because she tries to fix him, but because her presence inspires him to rise. And finally, she's deeply in integrity with herself. She doesn't chase, she doesn't compete, she doesn't hustle for a spot in his life. Her energy says, "I know who I am, and I know what I deserve. I'm not here to be everything. I'm here to be me." That quiet confidence is magnetic. It doesn't shout, but it stays with him. These are the hidden qualities. The ones that aren't always obvious in photos or small talk. But they're the exact reasons a man will look at a woman and think, "She's rare, she's different. I don't want to lose her." And once a man feels that, really feels it, he doesn't just date her, he chooses her. Let's talk about the things women do that silently push men away. Not because they're wrong or broken or unworthy, but because no one ever told them why it doesn't work. These are the common mistakes women make without even realizing they're doing it. And often, it's not the big dramatic stuff. It's subtle patterns, born from good intentions that backfire. The first mistake? Over-investing too soon. A lot of women give emotionally, mentally, even physically far before a man has earned it. Not out of desperation, but out of a desire to connect, to show him she's loyal, nurturing, supportive. But here's the problem. When you give at level 10 to a man who's only at level 3, it creates imbalance. He may enjoy the benefits, but he won't value the bond. Not because he's cruel, but because value is created through effort, not access. The second mistake is confusing chemistry with compatibility. Just because there's a spark doesn't mean it's a match. Chemistry can come from wounding just as easily as it can come from alignment. And when you chase intensity over stability, you end up falling for potential, ignoring red flags because the highs feel so good. But sustainable relationships aren't built on adrenaline. They're built on consistency. And if you overlook that, you'll keep wondering why things never seem to last. Another common one, not expressing needs clearly. Too many women hope that if they're chill enough or low maintenance, he'll love them more. But silence doesn't build intimacy. It builds resentment. A man can't meet a need you refuse to name. And if you're constantly shrinking, avoiding conflict or swallowing your voice, he may stay, but you'll be alone in the relationship. There's also the trap of trying to be his type. A woman might shapeshift, toning down her opinions, adjusting her personality, even changing her appearance, just to fit what she thinks he wants. But in doing so, she loses the very thing that makes her magnetic, her authenticity. A man might be intrigued at first, but over time he'll feel the disconnect, because no one can fake wholeness for long. And when a man senses that you're performing, not expressing, he pulls away. Another hidden mistake, making him the emotional center of your life. It sounds romantic to say, you're my everything. But in truth, it's pressure. A man wants to feel wanted, not needed. When your entire self-worth hinges on how he feels about you, he'll start to feel responsible for your emotional state. And that's a weight few men are willing to carry long term. These mistakes aren't about blame, they're about awareness. Because once you see them, you can shift them. And when you shift from overgiving to self-honoring, from silence to clear standards, from performance to presence, you stop chasing love and start attracting it. These small course corrections can change everything, not just in how men respond to you, but in how you begin to show up in your own life. And that's where real power begins. There's a quiet power in a high-value woman, and it's not always what people think. She doesn't necessarily have the loudest voice in the room, or the flashiest look, or a life that screams for attention. What sets her apart is her energy, how she carries herself, the way she moves through life with clarity, intention, and grace. High-value women don't try to prove their worth. They embody it. They don't chase, beg, or force outcomes. They understand that their value isn't determined by how much they're wanted, but by how much they honor themselves, regardless of who is watching. Here's what they do differently. They choose rather than wait to be chosen. They don't sit around hoping a man will finally see their worth. They're observing too. Does he bring peace into my life? Does he align with my values? They don't ask, does he like me? They ask, do I like who I become around him? High-value women set boundaries not as walls but as filters. They know that not everyone deserves access. They're kind, but clear, warm but discerning. They don't confuse attachment with compatibility. And if a man can't respect their boundaries, they walk, not because it's easy, but because staying would cost their self-respect. They also manage their emotions without making others responsible for them. They feel deeply, but they don't use feelings to manipulate or control. They know how to sit with discomfort, how to self-soothe, and how to express without projecting. That kind of emotional maturity isn't just rare, it's magnetic. It creates safety, not chaos, and men feel that deeply. Another key difference, they never hustle for validation. They don't send paragraphs when energy changes. They don't replay every conversation looking for what they could have done better. When something feels off, they ask once, and if the energy doesn't shift, they leave. Not out of ego, but because they trust their intuition. They know peace isn't too much to ask for. High-value women don't view love as something to earn. They understand that real love meets you where you are. It doesn't ask you to shrink. So they don't try to be cool with casual when their soul wants commitment. They're not afraid to walk away from almost love to make space for the real thing. And here's what might surprise you most. They're not always confident every minute of the day. They have doubts, insecurities, fears, but they face them. They grow through them. They don't avoid the work. They do the work. And that's what makes them powerful. Not perfection, but alignment. Not popularity, but presence. Not control, but self-trust. Men don't just notice high-value women. They remember them. And when the right man meets that kind of woman, something in him clicks. I want to rise for her. Because the high-value woman isn't asking to be chosen. She's choosing herself. And that is irresistible. Commitment isn't something a man does, just because it's the next logical step. It's not something he's pressured into. It's not even something he always understands until he feels it. And the truth most women never hear is this. A man doesn't fully commit with his words. He commits with his emotional safety, with his peace, with what he feels in your presence that he doesn't feel anywhere else. Most men will entertain, flirt, date, even chase, but real commitment, that only happens when a woman reaches a place inside him he didn't even know existed. And it has very little to do with how she looks, how available she is, or how much she gives. What moves a man into devotion is how he feels about himself when he's with her. If he feels respected, seen, and still free, he stays. If he feels judged, controlled, or like he has to earn his place, even subtly, he pulls back, not because he's immature, but because he's wired to protect his freedom unless he feels completely emotionally safe. Commitment isn't about a ring. It's about identity. A man chooses the one woman who doesn't try to fix him or compete with him, but who reflects back to him the version of himself he's proud to be. When he feels stronger, wiser, more grounded in her presence, that's when he starts to feel like she's home. And men don't commit to women who demand it. They commit to the women who inspire it without even trying. Sometimes the very reason he stays with one woman and ignores another isn't because she did anything wrong. It's because she tried to earn what was never meant to be earned. His love, his attention, his loyalty. But the woman he chooses, she doesn't chase. She doesn't over-explain. She doesn't prove her worth. She just is. And that calm, confident energy speaks louder than anything she could say. A man chooses when he sees that he doesn't have to lose his sense of self to love her. He chooses when he realizes that choosing her doesn't cost him his purpose, it supports it. And once that clarity lands in his body, not just his mind, that's when everything changes. That's when commitment stops feeling like a trap and starts feeling like alignment. It's not about how fast you fall in love. It's about how deeply you see him and how fully you're rooted in your own worth. Because when you don't need him to choose you to feel valuable, that's when he truly sees you. And in a world full of noise, that quiet certainty is unforgettable. Becoming the woman who gets chosen isn't about changing who you are. It's about returning to who you were before you started believing you weren't enough, before the heartbreaks, before the situationships, before the world taught you to chase love by abandoning yourself. There's a shift that happens, and it's not loud or dramatic. It's subtle, internal. It's the moment you stop performing and start embodying. It's the moment you stop asking, what do men want? And start asking, what do I want to feel in love? And does this man align with that? The woman who gets chosen doesn't just attract attention. She inspires devotion. And that shift begins when you stop outsourcing your worth to how someone else responds to you. When you start walking in your wholeness, everything changes. You stop interpreting silence as rejection. You stop romanticizing inconsistency. You stop settling for almost just because you're afraid of starting over. You trust that alignment feels like clarity, not confusion. The woman who gets chosen speaks her truth with softness and strength. She doesn't fear being too much or not enough because she's not performing for approval. She's simply being. And that authenticity is what makes her magnetic. She doesn't chase certainty from others. She creates it within herself. She doesn't need to force a label, beg for effort, or guess where she stands, because she has no interest in building love on shaky ground. And here's the deeper truth. The right man doesn't need to be convinced. He won't feel threatened by her standards. He won't pull away when she sets a boundary. He won't make her beg for consistency. Because real men recognize real women. And when a man sees a woman rooted in self-respect, he knows she's not replaceable. Becoming the woman who gets chosen doesn't mean you'll never be rejected again. It means rejection doesn't define you. It means you don't shrink just to fit into someone's limited vision of love. You expand, you rise, you allow things to fall away so better things can arrive. You stop asking, why didn't he choose me? And you start realizing, I get to choose too. You don't have to play games. You don't have to dim your light. You don't have to second guess your every move. When you shift into alignment with who you truly are, your energy does the work for you. It filters out what isn't meant for you and draws in what's aligned with your deepest truth. That's the woman who gets chosen. Not because she fights for a man's attention, but because she lives in a way that honors her own. And in a world full of noise, she becomes the calm, the clarity, the choice. As we come to the end of this video, I want you to pause for a moment and really let everything you've heard sink in. Choosing the woman who becomes the one isn't about playing games, luck, or even timing. It's about something much deeper. It's about clarity, about knowing your worth, about stepping into your own power with confidence and calm. What you do today matters. Not tomorrow, not next week, but right now, because every thought you have about yourself, every choice you make in how you show up, builds the foundation for the love you deserve. Start by being honest with yourself. What patterns have kept you stuck? Are you settling for less than you want because you're afraid to walk away? Are you giving your energy away too soon, hoping it will be reciprocated? Are you afraid to speak your truth because you don't want to risk losing someone? Awareness is the first step toward change. Next, practice self-respect in small ways. Say no when something doesn't feel right. Protect your time. Value your feelings. Remember, your boundaries aren't walls. They're gates that protect your peace and open only for what aligns with your highest good. And here's something crucial. Stop trying to change yourself to fit someone else's expectations. The right person will love you as you are and want to see you grow, not mold you into someone you're not. Your authenticity is your greatest strength. Finally, be patient with yourself. Becoming the woman who gets chosen is a journey. It's about growth, learning, and sometimes painful clarity. But every step forward brings you closer to the love that honors and supports you. So, what can you do today? Reflect on what you truly want. Make one small change that supports your self-worth. Maybe it's setting a boundary you've been avoiding or speaking up for yourself in a situation where you usually stay quiet. Remember, love begins with you. How you treat yourself, how you show up, and how you choose to be seen. You're not just waiting to be chosen. You're becoming the woman who naturally attracts the kind of love that lasts. And that shift starts right now.